Okay, so here's your beautiful scatter plot of two of your random variables. Of course, this is for my demonstration report with roller coaster random variables, vertical height versus speed. And now I want to add a line of regression and I want to get the line of regression equation. So I'm going to show you two ways to do it. One way a little bit easier than the other, but I think you'll find that the second way isn't really that difficult. And I think you'll find it interesting to learn how. All right, so the first way is just to first add the line of regression to this scatter plot. So the first thing you want to do is we're going to click this chart and notice how your options will change across the top here in Microsoft Excel. And so now we've got two new menu items or two new ribbon items, chart design and format. And what you want to do is click on chart design so that you can come over here and left click where it says add a chart element. So the chart element we want to add is a trend line, and we want to add a linear trend line. So you can see as soon as I put the cursor on linear, you see how it added it over here, right? If I had chosen something else like exponential or moving average, it does weird stuff. I want this one called linear. So left click that. Okay. So now that it's added the trend line, okay, this is really not that good looking. We need to modify this. And from this, we can also get the equation. So if you left click on it, you'll notice that when I left click on it, there will be a control handle here and a control handle here that'll show up. See, that shows it's selected. Now let's right click on it and we'll put format trend line. Okay, and that's going to bring some trend line options here. Right now it's a linear trend line, so that's fine. Um, let's see here, set intercept. So if you want to display the equation, you just click this box where it says display equation on chart. There you go. And so this, we can go ahead and go to the home menu and let me change the font. Ooh, shouldn't have done that. The font, I might as well. The font that I want, I think what I've got here is Times New Roman. Yours might be a different one, and that's fine. Let me get Times New Roman here. There we go. And I'm going to make that maybe 18 point bold, just so that it's easy to see. Okay, so this is the equation for this line of regression. It has a slope of 0.2411 and a y-intercept of 25.525. So that's on how you can get the equation. Let me just continue to finish formatting this line of regression. So let's left click this line of regression again. And that's about all the options that we really need to do here. These icons across the top, we want the paint bucket one. So left click that. And we want to make this maybe a solid line. And the color, let's just make it black. We could make it red, but I'm kind of averse to using colors. Let's make it maybe 3-point width. And let's make it a dashed line. So let's try this one. There we go. So that looks good. We could experiment with color. I generally don't like color, but I think that might help it show through a little bit better. And I think that's pretty much all we got to do. So this is the first method on how to add your line of regression. And let's see, maybe I'll make it a little bit thicker so it stands out a little bit more. 4-point. That looks a little bit better. And also get your line of regression equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so again, this is the slope in front of the x variable, and the constant back here, this is your y-intercept. Now, I told you that there's going to be two ways I was going to show you how to get this. Let me show you the second way. And by showing you the second way, I'm also going to show you a potential error that you might get. Okay, so what you want to do is just click in one of these cells off to the side of all of your data. And remember to use an equation, you hit equals. Yeah, do I want to do it that way? Yeah, I'll show you two ways of doing this. Okay, so we'll hit equals, and the function we want to use is called linest. All right, so I'll double click this. And what it wants is it wants the y values first, and then it wants the x values second. So the range of y values, let's see, my y values are the speed random variable. So I'm going to click here and go down. So from my first row down to my last row, and then I'll scroll back up to the top. All right, so you'll notice that this is giving some weird reference here, speed. Yeah, see, I think this is going to cause an error, but let me keep going. So I'll hit comma, so those are my y values. Now it wants my known x values. So my x values for me were vertical height. So that's column E here. So I'm going to click on the first row of column E and then go all the way down to the last row. Right there. All right. So I'm using this function called linest. And remember, you always have to start when you're going to use a function, you have to start with an equal sign. And I put my y values followed by a comma, followed by the range of x values. I'll end that with the parentheses and hit enter. And oh no, I got an error. So I got this spill error too when I did this the first time in Microsoft Excel. But let me show you how to fix it. The reason why this spill error comes up is because you've got rows across the top that have these little carets that let you filter the data down below. And let me show you how to fix this. So what you'll notice is that if you get this spill error, there's a menu item up here that says table design. Now that disappears if I click off of it. Okay, so if I click somewhere else in another column that doesn't have one of these careted control buttons, one of these drop-down buttons here for filtering, if I click over here, that table design option disappears. But as soon as I click over here in a column that has this control button, this table design option comes back. So you can click anywhere in a column that has one of these little filtering control buttons here. Doesn't matter. So you click table design, come over here to the tools part of this ribbon and click convert to range. And then it's going to say, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? Click yes. And voila, it suddenly makes that error go away. And this first number, this is your slope of your line of regression. And this is your y-intercept of your line of regression. So notice how this number, the slope, 0.241, is the same here, 0.241. And then over here, the y-intercept, 25.52. And here we've got 25.52. This is rounding to 4 decimal places and 3 decimal places. That's why it's a little different. Okay, so you can get your line of regression, slope, and y-intercept just by adding the trend line and then clicking that checkbox to add it to your graph, and that's totally fine. There's also a programmatic way to do it by using a spreadsheet function. And simultaneously, I showed you how to clear an error in case you happen to get it like I did. Let me show you another way to use functions other than kind of maybe magically knowing how it should be used. Okay. So let's say I wanted to use that same linest function. So what you do is you just click on a cell that you want to add a function to, come over here to the formulas menu and use this first button in the ribbon called insert function. Okay, it brings up this dialog box. And so where it says search for a function, start typing in the word line for like line of regression and click go. And so these are all of the functions that have the word line in it. Okay, I don't see how that does, but anyway, the one we want is this linest. Now, here's the advantage of inserting a function this way, better than the way I just showed you, is that if I click this linest and I click OK, it's showing me visually the arguments it wants, right? So the first thing it wants is it wants the range of known y values, okay? So with this cell selected or this field selected, click this little up arrow box. Okay, this is like a button, this up arrow button. And then select all of the rows of data that constitute all of your y values. So for me, it's all of the rows of data in my speed column. There we go. So you can see it put in that range D2 to D242. And now to get myself back, I just click this little button. Let me bring this down here. I just click this little blue button here, and it brings me back to this function arguments window. And my X values are in the E column. So what I can do here is I can just actually type in E2 colon E242. So that colon means give me every number between the first one in E2 and the last one, E242. These other two arguments you can just ignore, and we will click OK. And you can see it gives me the exact same result. And when I click in this cell, you can see the function that's been programmed in to that cell here in the equation bar. Oops, cancel that. And if I click in this cell, you can see pretty much the same equation. It just has some extra things kind of thrown into it. But basically, these are the same functions, okay? So those are two ways to get your equation for the line of regression in order to get the fully accurate slope and the fully accurate y-intercept, and how you can add the line of regression to your scatter plot as well.